Hi, this is Brent and welcome to Theoretically Practical. Today, we're going to be moving my air compressor from downstairs, where it's right next to me turning on at the worst of times, to upstairs. And because I often forget to shut this off properly, and I have a problem with reaching the drain currently because, as you can see, it's pretty messy down there. So we're going to be mounting it to mounting a remote drain to it that I can pull a chain and it'll drain right next to the door on my way out. And we're going to be running the power for this through this. This is a single phase 40 amp contactor, and it has a 120 volt coil. So what that means is I'm going to put this in parallel with the lights on the light switch. So when the lights are on, this is closed and the compressor can run. It'll still use this little pressure switch for the on off, but it just means when I walk out of the shop, I hit the lights, I know my compressor is off and I don't have to think about it. Once in a while I'll hear it running in the morning when I'm on my way to work and I got to run in here and mess with the thing. And this is kind of hard to reach, and I just end up fighting with it and fighting with myself. So I was going to put it in a corner of the shop to get it out of the way and try to build some air baffling around it for noise issues. Of course, my buddy, he just looks at it for 3 seconds and says, well, why don't you put it in the attic? And I go, well, because I'm not that bright, but now I am. So this compressor here is, it was a Husky, it says 7.5 horse peak, but if you look at the amperage on the motor, you can see how many kilowatts it powers. 746 kilowatts to a horsepower. It ain't no 7.5 horsepower in this lifetime, not with real measurements. They have ways of making it appear that way, but it's like the shop vac with 5 horsepower peak on it. Well, 5 horsepower is like 30 amps or more at 120 volts. You're not pulling 30 amps out of your light socket, you don't have 5 horsepower. That's just how it works. But I got this compressor for, I want to say like 90 bucks. They said the engine was bad. Not the engine, the motor was bad, but actually it was the compressor head that was bad. And if you buy one of these, if you see one of these on like Facebook or something and the compressor's bad, Husky made 8 million varieties of these. You're not going to get the right parts. I tried a couple times to rebuild the one that I had by ordering new connecting rods and pistons and stuff, and there are just 800 varieties that look exactly the same. So don't bother with that. I just went to Harbor Freight. I think I paid $150 or $170 for this compressor head. It mounted right up. It works great. I'm really happy with it. The only thing that was funky, and you can't see it here, but where the air comes out of the compressor, there's this weird, it almost looks like a JIC fitting, that kind of thing, but it's not a JIC fitting. And as far as the internet's concerned, it's not a real fitting. You can't get parts at Harbor Freight, but the general consensus was if you get a 3/4 inch brass coupler and you just wind it on there with as much Teflon tape or paste as you can and crank it till it won't crank no more, you'll be fine. And that's what I did because, well, you do what you got to do. And that's been about 5 years, so we're also going to change the oil on it as well. We're also going to drain the oil before we try to drag this upstairs because, anything to make it just that little bit easier is worth doing. So, yeah. And that's about it. All right, we're going to disconnect this completely, drain the oil out of it. Water, air, disconnected. We're going to let all the air out of the tank. You don't want to be banging around with the tank with 110 PSI in it. It's just, it's probably safe enough, but it's just unwise. And then we're going to get my whole messy pile of scrap metal and we're going to put it in this wooden box, which is just it's a shipping crate that my company was going to toss, so it's perfect for this application. We'll get that tidied up in the corner, we're going to get this out of the way, and then we'll move on to the next step, which is getting it upstairs. That's all right, this is light. It's not. Okay. that corner looks pretty sorted to me. I gotta remember to plug off that fitting I took off for the airline, but if I forget, it'll be pretty noticeable, I think. So my next step is I'm gonna have to run all the wire up the top, through the top, cut into the airline, and get a hole up there as well. And of course, there's the getting the compressor up the stairs. But I imagine that will be graceful enough that I don't feel the need to show all you guys up with it. So, onwards and upwards. Okay, let's talk about how we're gonna make the drain system work. Currently, you've got this little valve, you unscrew it, it kind of dumps its stuff once in a while, and no one ever opens it as often as they should because it's impossible to reach. So, my plan is, and this is a 3/8 ball valve, I might get a quarter because that's the same size as that. So what I want to do is put this on the bottom like so, somewhere around there, with a little right angle T, and use a spring to hold it shut, and then use a cable and a pulley arrangement so that next to the door where the lights are, where I'll be shutting the compressor off, I'll have a hand pull, and when I pull on it, it'll open for as long as I pull on it, and when I release, it'll close. Some of you guys might be like, well, why don't you get an auto drain or, any of the things that do it automatically for you? And the answer is, after looking at them, it seems like an auto drain that would be worth purchasing is in the neighborhood of $150, and they go up from there. There are some cheap ones based on timers, then I gotta run more wires to this, and even they're $50 for something that most reviews say lasts about a year. So basically, I don't want to mess with it over and over again. I'd rather do it a simple, reliable, and above all, cheap method to do this. So we'll just pull this out the bottom. I really like these Knipex pliers. They're kind of a weird design. I haven't seen anything like it before, but they grip really hard and they don't screw up your fasteners as much, I find. I've had these for about a year and I kind of really like them. So we'll go get those supplies. I'd like to test fit it at least down here, but I'll probably take it back off again when I take it up the stairs, just because there's a good chance anything that sticks off of this is just gonna get ripped right off, so. All right, so I'm back from the hardware store, and I got a 1/4 inch valve, NPT, National Pipe Thread is. I already ranted about pipe thread sizes and whatnot in another video, but anyways, 1/4 inch NPT, so we got a close nipple, a 90, a longer nipple, and the valve, and then a 1/4 inch NPT to 1/4 inch compression fitting. So this will be our drain line, which I'll route and cut. So it'll come down right next to the door, and then this valve will be mounted somewhere like this. I've got these large utility extension springs to pull it back in place. So they'll have a nice long throw on them because they're nice and long. And then I have about 30 feet of this braided cable. I've got some cable clamps, a pull ring, just something for me to put my hand on, and a couple of pulleys. And with all that, we should be able to make this work. So I'm feeling pretty confident about that. But next, we're gonna take the motor and the compressor head off the top of that, because I just looked at taking this up the stairs and I'm like, what am I doing there? What am I hoping to gain by keeping it all in one piece? A hernia? So I'm gonna take it apart and bring it upstairs and put it back together again, because it's only like 8 bolts. It's only gonna take me about 10 minutes to do that. So I'm probably gonna set up somewhere so you can watch me struggle. Well, it turns out I found a really efficient way to get the last bit of oil out of it. Is once you tip it on its side, it just goes all over the floor, which is exactly what we were aiming for. Oh well. It's not the first oil to get on this garage floor, and it surely will not be the last. Oh, it was way better. It's still really heavy. There we go. Well, you have to forgive me for the quality of the lighting up here. There isn't even a light bulb. Well, there is, but it's burnt out. I don't have another one. There's one light bulb. So we're actually running with the battery-powered camera rig from last week because the outlets are also, there's like 2 up here. They're pretty not in a great place. So this is where it's got to go. I originally was going to put it on the other side of the staircase, but the staircase isn't quite centered. So it's just a little bit taller there. And as you can see, like, that's all she's got. Obviously having this cross into the walkway is not ideal, but I don't use this area. I've been up here once a year, twice a year, for whatever reason. That's about it. So I don't really mind this, but if I decide I do, I might figure out how to, you know, put the bushings in here instead and shorten everything up. But for now, doesn't matter. I don't want this thing to vibrate the heck out of the shop. And I do plan to insulate it. I say this summer, but at some point I plan to insulate it. So that being said, I don't want to shake the heck out of the floor. So what I have is, they make kits for this that are probably better. I'd probably get like a sorbethane instead. But I got this like floor pad thing, but it's got a heavy felt pad on one side and like a soft foam rubber on the other side. And for the other thing, I've got this little rubber disc that's meant to protect your floor from furniture. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the soft rubber side to the floor, and then I'm gonna put this and stick it to it, the rubbery foam backed thing. I'm gonna drill a hole through it, and I'm gonna lag it to the floor, but I'm not gonna lag it down tight because I know, I mean, it's not gonna lift up in the air. It's just gonna try to walk around. So the lag will go in, and where the lag goes through the metal feet, I'm gonna put silicone tubing on it. It's like silicone vacuum tubing. I'm gonna put like an inch or 2 on that so that even if it walks over to one way or the other, whatever it does, it can't put metal on metal and really get a good contact. So I briefly considered hanging it from the ceiling, but that sounds crazy even to me. And there's just not a good way to do that. So, okay, so I know that these 2 are gonna basically be this way, and this 1 foot is gonna be pointed directly at the wall. So it kind of gives me an orientation to be like that. What I'm gonna do is screw it in until it's here, drill a hole in this to this with that big spring, and then I'm just gonna attach the cable also to this handle. So when the cable pulls, it'll pull it straight, and when the cable releases, it'll pull it off again. I may end up having to fiddle with the angle a little bit to make sure that it closes all the way, but I think that'll be plenty good enough. This is the pipe dope I'm using. It's nothing special. You can't see the label from there anyways, but it does say TFE paste on it. Anything with PTFE paste in it is going to be your better choice. I switched from using Teflon tape to using, well, PTFE is Teflon, but I switched from using Teflon tape on my plumbing joints to this sort of thing. I just think it works better. Okay. Well, there we go. It may not open the valve 100% when you pull on it, but I don't think it matters that much. Okay. Be nice and isolated and quiet, hopefully. The important question is, will I remember to put more oil in this before I turn it on? Who can say? Well, before I end it for today, not the video, I'll finish the whole thing this week, but before I end it with, I find 2 funnels, they're both the wrong size. What are the odds? 100%. I wonder if I can, this is gonna go poorly. Yeah, whatever. I'm using a quarter cable synthetic blend, I don't know. I just wanted synthetic for cold weather ability of it. So, oh no, this is going poorly. Well, it looks like it is enough. Seems like a lot more than that came out of it. Anything that takes oil will have a, or that has a little sight glass like that, you kind of usually want to fill it right about halfway. In this case, I'm at the top of the dot instead of the bottom, but I think anywhere in that dot's probably fine. The manual probably says something different, but it probably also says it in something resembling English, but not quite, so. So it's the next day in the shop, and I got out here ahead of filming a little bit and just did some of the bits where, unless you want to see me from behind and nothing of what I'm working on and watch me mumble and curse to myself, it wasn't going to be good footage. But what I ended up with is I have the hose here that connects to the drain, and it goes down into a kitty litter bucket I had, because I had it. And then if you look up at the ceiling there, you can see the cable comes down as well in the hose, and the cable terminates with this ring. And if I pull the ring, I've opened the valve. So we'll go up around top and take a look at the rest of that. So that's where it comes up through the floor. That eye hook and that lag seem to be holding well. They flex a little bit, and maybe I'll have to rethink that design, but I'm happy with it for now. And the cable goes along through my shadow underneath here, and then there's one pulley there, and if you can see it, there's one pulley there, and then straight ahead is the valve. And that's just, I put the zigzag in so that the pull is, instead of trying to pull the valve straight, it's trying to pull it a little bit past straight. I suspect that spring is just a little bit heavier than what I want, but for now, it's all working, and once I have completed the entire installation and I've decided I need to do something about it, that is when I'll do something about it. So the plan is, I have a box to mount that contactor in, and we're gonna mount it right there. That loop of wire is the old wire for the compressor, so we'll run it to there. That'll also mean that the light switch that's down there won't have as long of a run to the contactor as well. So we're gonna mount that box up. We're gonna wire that to it, the 220 volt power to the box. We're gonna run the 220 volt power along to the smaller of those two holes, and that'll go right to the compressor. We'll get that wired up. And then the bigger hole is for the air line, and then we're gonna cut into the air line, which is running along the ceiling right there, and put a soft line to the compressor. A hard line might be better, but soft line's way easier, so we're going that way. Okay, this is the enclosure I'm gonna put it in. This is 6x6x4. It's basically a really nice junction box. It's made by Hammond. There's all the information on it if you wanna get one. So I've got this definite purpose contactor right here, and you'll notice it says L1 and L2, and then T1 and T2. The whole purpose of that is just to know this is the side that's meant to have the line, and this is the side that's meant to have the load. I don't think it matters with one of these at all, but I'm gonna still wire it that way. You could use 1/4" terminals, but these have the clamps, which I'd prefer to use. I will use the 1/4" terminals on the side. There is no polarity on the coil, so that's just a little electromagnet, and that'll suck the power contacts together. So basically, once this is all wired through this, I flick the lights off, and the compressor can't turn on no matter how low the pressure gets or how many leaks I have. I turn the lights on, the compressor turns back on. I've heard some horror stories about people having like a line burst in the night, and it just ruins their compressor. So, and also, I'm sure this isn't like helping my electric bill out at all, having this run randomly. I think you take this plate off to mount it. I'm just gonna stick them on. I'm just gonna use some self-tapping screws, and then when they stick out the back, I'm just gonna grind them off. So, we'll see how well that works out. Could be a good idea, might be a bad idea. Okay, it's not the prettiest thing in the world, but you've got your input wire from down there, comes and goes to the line side. You've got your output wire up here, which still needs to be run, going into the output side. And you have this other wire here that's gonna be hooked into the lights. And you've got one wire there and one wire there. The polarity on this doesn't matter because it's an AC coil. And that's all. The only other thing is that you might be able to see I used one of these green wire nuts. They got a hole in the middle, so the thinnest wire, or well, actually one of the wires can go out the end and go to the ground, so you can tie 3 or 4 grounds together. Sorry about how bad the lighting is, but it's hard to get my light up here 10 feet in the air. So we'll reset and I'll show you soldering in the pipe connection. Okay, well there's my tap in right there to the system. That's where my soft line goes through the wall. That's where my power after the contactor goes through the wall. I need to get one of those like mouth mounts or head mounts or something so I can film some of this, because just it wasn't gonna happen from the floor from a tripod. So that's just all soldered in though. It's just regular 1/2-inch copper drinking pipe from Home Depot. Some people use PEX. I think this is good. It's solderable. I like to solder more than I like to crimp. So anyways, we're gonna go around to the other side, get you some lights, show hooking up the compressor to the air, and then the power, and then all we gotta do is take that spool of wire there and wire it into that light switch there, and then it's time to celebrate or figure out what I did wrong. But, you know, hopefully the first one. All right, guys, the moment of truth here. All right, so if I flip the switch on the right, or yeah, the right, I get light over here. Great. Now, if I flip the switch on the left, I should hear the air compressor kick on. And yep, and if I flip the lights off, it should go off. I will say it's not that much quieter, but it is also out of the corner, and it's on the light switch, which I wanted to do for a while. So, and we'll just take a look over here, move this out of the way, and here's my pull cord, and there's my drain. And I'll show you inside of my bucket. Wow, that's some nasty stuff in there. But I'm gonna hold it downwards and pull the pull cord in. There we go. I can drain my compressor as I head out the door. Once I think it's drained, I can shut the lights off. I think I got some oil on my belt, which is causing that weird sound from the compressor, but I'm gonna go up there and take a look at it, maybe clean it off. So I guess in conclusion, it's really nice to be able to turn my air compressor on and off with my lights. That was really great, and by adding in this nice pull cord hooked into the drain system, and then hooked into a bucket so it doesn't go all over the place. That's gonna be really handy. So I'll actually remember to, actually drain it on a regular basis. Before, it was just buried, and I did not empty it as often as I should have. So this will make the system a lot easier. I guess my only question left is, who's gonna help me clean up? Have a great weekend.